I should have stayed at work that night. I should have never come home early. But I did. And now I can't unsee what I saw. It was 2:17 a.m. My feet were dragging, body sore from 10 hours on the factory floor. Third shift always hit hardest on Fridays. But that night, a machine went down early, and the supervisor cut us loose. Most guys rushed to the bar. I just wanted to surprise my girl. Maybe crawl into bed next to her and feel, for once, that I wasn't alone in this grind. I parked 2 blocks away. Didn't want to wake her. Slipped in through the back door. Quiet. Careful. I remember thinking how peaceful everything looked. The porch light was off. Crickets chirped like nothing was wrong. I wish they'd screamed. The living room was dark. TV off. No shoes by the door. My boots didn't echo on the tiles the way they usually did. I paused at the foot of the stairs. Something felt wrong. I took the first step, then another, and then I heard it. A soft giggle. Hers. Then a man's voice. Low. Confident. I froze. My heart didn't beat, it detonated. My fingers curled around the banister so tight it creaked under the pressure. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe she left the TV on upstairs. Maybe, but I knew. I climbed the rest of the stairs like a ghost. Silent. Hollow. Our bedroom door was half shut. Light spilled out through the crack. I heard it again. Laughter, whispering, then a moan. Her moan. The one I thought was only for me. I pushed the door open, and there she was, on top of him, hair wild, her hands on his chest. My sheets, my pillows, my life. She didn't even see me at first. Too busy riding someone else like I didn't exist. Like I hadn't just worked 60 hours that week to pay for her goddamn nails and Starbucks. When she finally looked up, mid-thrust, her face turned to stone. Pure panic. I didn't say a word. Just stood there, breathing like a bull. She scrambled off him, grabbed the blanket to cover herself, but it was too late. I'd already seen everything. Wait, babe, I can explain. I laughed. Actually laughed. A dry, broken sound. The guy didn't even move. Just lay there, arms behind his head like he owned the place. Smirking. Get the F*** out of my house, I said. She reached out to me, crying, but I stepped back. I couldn't feel anything. Not anger. Not sadness. Just numb. I turned around. Walked back down the stairs. Out the door. Into the night. The air was cold. But not colder than the betrayal burning through my chest. I didn't sleep that night. Drove aimlessly for hours, the city lights blurring behind the windshield. My mind playing the scene over and over like some cruel, glitching tape. Her face when she saw me. His arrogant smirk. The way their bodies fit together in our bed. I kept wondering, when did it start? Was this the first time? Or had she been doing this while I worked night after night? Grinding my bones to keep the lights on in a house that had turned into a F****** stage for betrayal? By dawn, I ended up parked outside a diner off Route 7, nursing a bitter coffee that tasted like ashes. My phone buzzed nonstop, her name lighting up the screen again and again. I couldn't bring myself to answer. What was there to say? What kind of apology erases that? I finally went home around 9 a.m. I half expected her to be gone. Her things packed, the bedroom stripped of every trace. But no, she was there, curled up on the couch, wrapped in a hoodie like a shamed teenager. Her eyes were puffy, mascara streaked down her cheeks like black scars. As soon as she saw me, she stood up too fast, stumbled over her words. I messed up, Tyler. Please just let me explain. It didn't mean anything. It was stupid. I was drunk. You weren't drunk. I cut her off, voice hoarse, tired. You were laughing. You were ing happy. She flinched. Good. She should flinch. I dropped my keys on the kitchen counter and stood there, just staring at her like she was a stranger I once thought I knew. How long? I asked. Quiet. Cold. She hesitated. That pause told me everything before she even opened her mouth. 3 months, she whispered. I laughed again. Not from humor. From disgust. 3 months. Jesus Christ. It just happened, she said quickly. You were always working, always exhausted. We never talked anymore. I felt alone. My jaw tightened so hard I thought my teeth might crack. So you decided to fix your loneliness by some random guy in our bed? He's not random, she mumbled. That stopped me cold. I turned slowly, stared her down. Say that again. She looked away. Her silence screamed louder than anything she could have said. I walked past her, into the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, the same bed I'd found her in hours earlier, still warm with someone else's sweat. I stared at the floor, gripping the edge of the mattress so hard my knuckles turned white. I didn't cry. Not then. The tears would come later, when the numbness wore off. All I felt in that moment was the shattering realization that the woman I loved had been lying to my face for months, kissing me with the same mouth she used to moan his name, smiling across the dinner table while texting him under the napkin. My whole life had turned into a lie, and I had no idea what the hell to do next. The worst part wasn't even the cheating. It was the choice to lie every single day, the decision to watch me drag myself home from work, too tired to eat, and still kiss me goodnight knowing she'd been with someone else just hours before. That kind of betrayal isn't a mistake. It's a pattern. It's ing blueprint of who she really was. And the more I thought about it, the more it didn't add up. Who was this guy? He wasn't random, she made that clear. So who the hell had I been sharing my life with? I needed to know. I had to look him in the eye. See the man she thought was worth throwing everything away for. I waited until she went to the grocery store, or at least that's what she claimed. I didn't believe a word out of her mouth anymore, but I didn't care. Her phone was on the nightstand, unlocked. A rookie mistake. I picked it up with shaking hands, heart pounding like I was defusing a bomb. And in a way I was. The bomb was truth. His name was Marcus. I scrolled through their messages. Each one a new dagger. Every miss you. And last night was amazing like acid on my soul. Photos, videos, memes, inside jokes. There was a whole second relationship living in that thread. A twisted mirror version of what we used to have. Only this time she was alive in a way I hadn't seen in years. She laughed more, teased more. She was herself with him, not the tired, moody version I got at the end of each long day. And then I saw it, a picture of the two of them at a bar. Her arms around his neck, smiling wide. The timestamp? A Thursday night. I had been at work, of course. But what made my stomach twist wasn't the pose. It was the background. I recognized it. Marcus wasn't some stranger. He worked with me, second shift. We'd shared beers during a company tailgate. He'd asked about her. Your girl's hot, man. I remembered him saying, laughing like it was no big deal. That slimy bastard had looked me in the eyes, shook my hand, all while he was plotting to crawl into my bed the moment I punched in. Rage boiled in my veins. I nearly crushed her phone in my fist. The betrayal had layers now, not just from her, but from someone I'd actually trusted. Coworker. Someone who knew exactly what he was doing. I waited for her to come back, sitting on the couch like a statue. When she walked in with bags of groceries, smiling faintly like this was any other Saturday, I held the phone up. Her face fell instantly. I saw everything, I said. She didn't speak, didn't try to lie. She just lowered the bags slowly, like she knew there was no point anymore. You brought him into my life, I said, voice shaking. You let him talk to me, joke with me, pretend like nothing was happening while you were screwing him behind my back. You let me shake his hand. Tears welled in her eyes. She opened her mouth, but I stood up before she could speak. I'm done, I said. There's no coming back from this. I walked out again, but this time it wasn't aimless. I knew where Marcus lived, and I wasn't going there to talk. I drove to Marcus's apartment with my pulse thundering in my ears, the kind of anger that doesn't burn. It consumes. Every red light was a test. Every stop sign a challenge to my restraint. I had no weapon, just my fists, and I didn't care what would happen. I wasn't thinking clearly. All I knew was that I needed to see his face. I needed him to know that I knew. that I wasn't some oblivious idiot anymore. His place was one of those rundown buildings on the east side. Peeling paint, broken mailboxes, a parking lot that reeked of oil and broken promises. I didn't knock. I pounded on his door like I was trying to break it down. After a long pause, it opened slowly, cautiously. And there he was, Marcus, standing there shirtless, rubbing his eyes like he'd just woken up from the best sleep of his life. When he saw me, he froze. That smug confidence melted off his face like wax. For a second, neither of us spoke. Just stared. Then he opened his mouth. Look, man, I didn't let him finish. My fist hit his jaw before he got another syllable out. He stumbled back, crashing into a side table. A lamp shattered. He clutched his face, yelling something, but I didn't care. I was on him before he could recover, shoving him into the wall, the rage spilling out of me like lava. You looked me in the eye, I shouted, shaking with fury. You came to my house. You shook my in hand. He tried to push me off. He was taller, maybe stronger, but I was powered by betrayal. It wasn't just physical, it was personal. I saw red, felt every ounce of humiliation boiling under my skin. I didn't mean for it to go that far, he gasped, trying to defend himself. It just happened. No, I spat, breathing hard. It doesn't just happen. You planned it. You wanted it. And she let you. I backed off before it got worse. My hands were shaking. My chest felt like it would explode. I didn't want to go to jail, not for him. He wasn't worth it. But I needed him to see what he'd done. To feel a fraction of the chaos he dropped into my life like it was nothing. As I turned to leave, he called out, his voice trembling. She said she was going to leave you. I stopped dead. What? I said without turning around. She told me she wasn't happy. That you were always gone. That you didn't see her anymore. She said she loved me. I turned back slowly, my face blank. That sentence, that one ing sentence, was worse than any punch. She'd said she loved him. 3 words that were once sacred between us, now spilled so easily for someone who didn't deserve them. And that's when it hit me, this wasn't just sex. It wasn't just some wild fling while I was breaking my back on night shifts. She chose him. I left without another word. Back in my truck, I sat for a long time, staring out at the cracked sidewalk, the sun creeping higher in the sky. The weight of everything hit me all at once, not just the betrayal, but the reality that the woman I loved wasn't mine anymore. Maybe she never really was. And the worst part? I still loved her. Even now. Even after everything. When I got back home, it was like stepping into a different reality, one where everything looked the same but nothing felt familiar. The pictures on the wall mocked me. Our smiling faces locked forever in fake moments of happiness. The couch where we watched movies. The kitchen table where we laughed over takeout. Every corner whispered a version of Remember When, and I hated it. I hated how much I still felt something for her. I hated how a part of me still wanted her to run to me, crying, begging, swearing that it was all just a mistake, that she chose me after all. But she didn't. When I walked in, she was sitting at the table, head in her hands, the untouched groceries still in plastic bags beside her. Her hair was tied up in that messy way I used to think was cute. Now it just looked careless. Like everything else. She looked up when she heard the door. Her eyes were red again, but I didn't care anymore. The tears had lost their meaning. They weren't for me, they were for her own guilt. Her own downfall. I didn't say anything. Just walked past her, went into the bedroom and started grabbing my things. Tyler, please, she said behind me, her voice breaking. We need to talk. I zipped my duffel bag shut, threw it over my shoulder, and finally turned to her. There's nothing left to talk about. I made a mistake, she whispered. A huge, terrible mistake. You made a series of choices, I snapped. You didn't trip and fall into his bed, Emily. You walked there. Over and over. While I was out breaking my body for us. You chose this. She stepped forward, eyes wide. I didn't love him. Not really. It was a phase. A distraction. I didn't know how to deal with it. With what? I cut her off. With boredom? With real life? With the fact that love sometimes means showing up when it's not convenient. She didn't respond. I stared at her for a long time, memorizing the face of the woman I once thought I'd grow old with. It looked the same, but everything behind it was gone. Whatever we'd had, whatever love we once built, was now buried beneath months of deception and whispered I love yous meant for someone else. I would have forgiven a one-time thing, I said, almost quietly. If you had come to me broken, honest, scared, maybe. But you didn't. You lived in the lie. You let it breathe. You nurtured it. Her lip trembled. She stepped forward again, but I moved past her. I'm staying at Mike's for a while, I said. I'll figure out the lease later. You can have the place. She broke then. Collapsed into the chair, sobbing into her hands, the sound raw and ugly and real. I didn't comfort her. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I knew if I touched her even now I might crumble. And I couldn't afford to crumble. Not anymore. Not after what she did. I walked out. This time I didn't look back. Mike didn't ask questions. He just opened the door, nodded, and pointed me to the spare room. That kind of silence, the heavy male kind, said more than any words could. I threw my bag on the bed, sat down, and let out the breath I'd been holding since the night it all shattered. I wasn't okay. I wasn't even close. But at least now I was somewhere safe. Somewhere where the walls didn't echo with betrayal. The first few days blurred together. I didn't sleep much. Ate even less. I stared at my phone constantly, both dreading and craving her name on the screen. It came, of course, dozens of times. Long texts. Voicemails. Late-night calls I let ring out. At one point, she even came to Mike's place. Knocked on the door, crying, begging to just talk. Mike stood in front of me and told her to leave. That's a real friend. He didn't need to know the whole story. He just knew I was broken, and that was enough. One night, about a week later, I finally listened to one of her voicemails. I don't know why. Curiosity? Masochism? Maybe some pathetic, buried hope that she'd say something that would make it all make sense. She didn't. It was 5 minutes of sobbing, apologies, and saying how empty the apartment felt without me. How she missed my voice. My smell. My presence. I sat there in the dark, phone pressed to my ear, feeling absolutely nothing. I'd been gutted from the inside. Hollowed out. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just hurt, it changes you. It rewrites how you see yourself. You start questioning everything. Was I not enough? Was I boring? Did I push her away without realizing it? And worst of all, could I have stopped it? The answers don't come. And even if they did, they wouldn't fix the damage. One afternoon, Mike and I were sitting on his porch, beers in hand, silence between us again. He finally broke it. You gonna talk to her? I shook my head. There's nothing left to say. She's still texting you? Every day. He sipped his beer, then looked out at the street. You think you'll ever forgive her? I didn't answer right away. The word forgive felt foreign. Like a language I no longer spoke. But eventually, I said what I knew was true. Not for what she did, but maybe someday for what she took from me. He nodded slowly. What was that? I looked at him. My peace. My trust. My belief that love meant something. The silence that followed was heavier than before. But it felt honest. Like we were both sitting in the same trench, covered in the same kind of emotional dirt. I knew then that healing wouldn't be some upward curve. It would be jagged. Slow. There would be nights where I'd want to text her. Mornings I'd reach for her in my sleep. Dreams where we were still laughing, still whole. But reality? Reality was cold. And I had to keep walking through it one step at a time. It took me nearly 3 weeks to go back to the apartment. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. My name was still on the lease, and I needed to grab the rest of my stuff. I thought about asking Emily to leave while I packed, but something in me wanted her to be there. Maybe I needed her to see what her choices had turned into. Maybe I wanted her to feel the weight of the ending. When I walked through the door, the place felt smaller. Like the walls had closed in, tired of holding all the lies. She was sitting on the edge of the couch, eyes already glassy like she'd been crying before I even arrived. I didn't say anything. Just walked past her, into the bedroom, and opened the closet. Some of my things were already folded and stacked, a sad attempt at being helpful. Or maybe a desperate grasp at control. I didn't comment. I just packed. After a while, I felt her standing in the doorway. The silence between us was suffocating. She finally spoke, voice trembling. I've been going to therapy. I kept folding my shirts. She tried again. I know that doesn't fix anything. But I thought you should know. I looked up. Her eyes were hollow. No makeup. No armor. Just raw, damaged truth. And for a moment, I saw the girl I once fell in love with, the version of her before the secrets, before the destruction. I don't hate you, I said quietly. Her lip quivered. Then why won't you talk to me? Why won't you let me try to fix this? I zipped my bag shut and stood facing her fully for the first time in weeks. Because love doesn't survive what you did. It dies in it. She looked away, tears spilling again. I didn't move to comfort her. Not because I wanted her to suffer, but because I knew that if I offered kindness, she'd see it as a door. And that door had to stay shut. I didn't mean to fall for him, she whispered. I didn't mean to lose everything either, I replied. But we don't get to control the damage once we light the match. She nodded slowly as if that truth finally landed in her chest. I carried my bag to the door. She followed me, silent except for the occasional sniffle. When I reached the threshold, I turned once more. For what it's worth, I said, I hope you find what you're looking for. Just not at the cost of someone else's heart next time. She didn't speak. Just stood there, a ghost in the place we used to call home. I walked out for the last time. No rage. No tears. Just the dull ache of acceptance, the final stage of heartbreak. And the beginning of something else I wasn't quite ready to name. Life after Emily was quieter than I expected. Not peaceful, not yet, just quiet. Like walking into a room where the music used to be loud but someone hit pause and now all you hear is the soft hum of what's left behind. Days blurred. I went to work, came home to Mike's spare room and stared at the ceiling most nights, wondering how long it would take before the weight in my chest lifted. Or if it ever really would. People started noticing. At work, I moved slower. I didn't joke around like I used to. The guys gave me space, which I appreciated. Even Marcus, that coward, switched shifts. Management said it was for staffing flexibility, but we all knew better. I never saw him again. Never wanted to. Let him live with the guilt? That would rot him better than my fists ever could. One night, I found myself driving past the apartment again. Not on purpose. Just habit. It was late. The lights were off. I sat in my truck for a while, engine running, staring up at the windows where we once planned our future. I didn't cry. I didn't feel rage. I just felt tired. Tired of missing someone I didn't even recognize anymore. That was when I realized something important. I wasn't grieving her. I was grieving the version of her I had created in my mind. The one who would never hurt me. The one who stood by me through hard times. The one who made me believe in forever. But that woman? She never existed. I'd built her from pieces of hope, love, and projection. The real Emily, the one who slept with a man who shook my hand, she was a stranger. A shadow. And I had to let her go. It wasn't a dramatic moment. No big speech. No emotional collapse. Just a quiet decision in the dark, alone in my truck. I drove back to Mike's and started writing a list of everything I wanted to do now that I was free. Not just free from her, free from the life I thought I had to live. I wanted to get a new apartment. I wanted to take a road trip. Hell, I even thought about finally learning how to fish, something my dad always tried to teach me when I was a kid but I never had time for. The point was, I had options. I wasn't stuck anymore. Her betrayal had shattered me, yes. But it also cracked open a door I didn't know I needed to walk through. And now that I was on the other side, I didn't want to go back. Healing didn't come in waves, it came in fragments. Some mornings I woke up feeling lighter, almost like myself again. Other days I could barely get out of bed, crushed by memories I didn't ask to remember. The sound of her laugh in the back of my mind. The way she used to rest her head on my shoulder during long drives. The little things, always the little things, hurt the most. Because they came without warning. Like ghosts that refused to stay dead. But I kept going. I got a new apartment on the other side of town. Small, plain, but mine. No shared closets. No lipstick on the mirror. No lingering scent of betrayal. Just quiet walls and the soft hum of solitude. I filled the space with things I liked, things I never got to choose when we were together. A record player. A worn leather chair I found at a thrift store. A plant I somehow kept alive longer than expected. These were small victories, but they mattered. I started going to the gym again. Not for revenge. Not to win the breakup. Just to sweat. To breathe. To remember I had a body that wasn't just meant to survive, but live. I reconnected with old friends I hadn't seen in years. Some were surprised to hear what happened. Some weren't. It was eye-opening, the way people showed you who they were when your life caught fire. One night, I got dinner with an old friend from high school, Sarah. She had this quiet strength about her. The kind of woman who didn't need to speak loud to be heard. We talked for hours about everything and nothing. It wasn't a date. Not really. But it felt good. Safe. Human. Like I hadn't lost everything after all. After dinner, she asked me how I was really doing. I paused, thought for a long time. And I told her the truth. I'm still pissed sometimes. Still broken in places. But I think I'm starting to feel proud of the man who crawled out of that mess. Because for a while there, I didn't think I'd make it. She smiled in that soft, knowing way. But you did. Yeah, I nodded. I did. That night, I drove home with the windows down, the wind in my hair, and a kind of calm I hadn't felt in months. Not closure. Not yet. But clarity. And that was enough for now. I wasn't whole again. I might never be. But I was no longer in pieces. And that was more than I thought possible when this all began. It's been almost a year now. 12 months since that night I came home early from work and watched my world collapse in a doorway. A year of unlearning, relearning, hurting, healing. Some memories have faded like the soft corners of an old photograph. Others still sting the way betrayal always does, but they no longer control me. I ran into Emily once, a few weeks ago. It was at the grocery store, of all places. The universe really does have a twisted sense of humor. She looked different, thinner, tired, not unhappy, but not glowing either. Just real. She was pushing a cart with a half-filled basket. When she saw me, she froze. Our eyes locked. And for a second, time folded in on itself. She took a step toward me. Opened her mouth. I raised a hand gently. Don't, I said, not angry, just calm. We're good. She nodded. Her eyes welled with something I couldn't quite name. Regret, maybe? Grief. A kind of love that had missed its chance. And then we walked past each other. Just like that. No drama. No second chances. Just two people who used to share everything, now reduced to a silent aisle and a few canned goods. When I got back to my apartment that night, I sat by the window and let myself feel it all, not just the sadness, but the pride. Because I didn't fall apart. I didn't let her ruin me. I let myself break, yes, but I also rebuilt. Stronger. Wiser. Softer in the right places and harder in the ones that needed to be protected. The biggest lesson? Not everyone who loves you knows how to keep you. And sometimes the worst thing they can do is the very thing that sets you free. Betrayal cracked me open, exposed all my deepest wounds. But in that painful exposure, I found something I never expected. Clarity. I stopped confusing sacrifice for love. I stopped chasing people who only saw me when it was convenient. I started showing up for myself, not out of spite, but out of respect. If you're reading this and you've been there, if someone you love tore your heart out with a smile on their lips and excuses on their tongue, let me tell you something no one said to me at the time. You're not stupid. You're not weak. You're human. And sometimes, the ones who hurt us most aren't monsters, they're just broken people who don't know how to love without destroying. But that's not your burden to carry. Let them go. Heal out. And when you rise, because you will, you'll realize the person you became in the ruins was someone worth fighting for all along. I did. And now? Now I finally know what peace feels like.